Hi, so I've talked about posting my testimony on here for a while now, and I think I'm gonna start that process. It's just been kind of like I've just been waiting to do it at the right time when the Lord says is right. So I just want to start with my background and where I came from. So I was born in Guatemala, and I grew up with my mom for my first 3 years of my life. My mom came to the United States um, when I was 3, so I only got to have my mom up until I was 3 years old. So I was raised by my grandparents from my dad's side, and I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters. And so when I was growing up, I didn't have my parents. My dad was already in the United States, and that's why my mom left when I was 3, because she was meeting my dad. And the reason why the reason why my mom and dad weren't there was because they wanted to provide a better life for their kids. So that's why they weren't present. But my grandparents raised me and my siblings. My grandparents were Christian. They would would take us to church every Sunday. We would have Sunday school, and we would attend not all of them, but most of the events that they would have for the youth. And I remember when I was a kid, I remember going camping, going out and like doing like activities like going to the beach, stuff like that. I remember, um, I just always remember being part of the church, and hearing about Jesus. And like I knew of him, but I actually didn't know him personally, uh, given I was still a child. But um, I want to talk about some things I experienced while I was growing up. So, um, I remember when I was a kid, my brother and my sisters, or it was mostly my brother and sister. Honestly, I think it might have been just my brother. I don't know, but they would like to tease me, and they would tell me, "Oh, Satan's gonna come get you," and I just remember crying. Um, I remember feeling scared, and it was just kind of a weird thing that they would do. But yeah, I don't know. Might have been kind of mean, but whatever. Um, but yeah, they would be like, "Oh, Satan's gonna come get you," and I just remember being like so scared, and like I would cry. um, um, Another core memory is me playing with a glass bottle of Coca-Cola. I remember I was in the like at the back of the house, and my grandpa had like a rim from a wheel over there, and I just remember going over there, and I don't know why I did it, but I hit the glass bottle on the rim, and it exploded in my hand, and glass went flying everywhere. I didn't get cut anywhere on my face or anything like that, but I did get cut of my foot, and I have like a little scar right there. And I remember going up to my grandma and she seen all that, and I just remember her giving me some money to go buy myself a snack. And like I just remember putting on my sandal, and I was just kind of limping, and I was like, I didn't even clean it, it was just bleeding. And I just remember going to the store and buying snacks, and that was that. um Another story I have is, um when I was a little kid, I used to like going to my auntie's house because she had kids, and so I would like to go over there to hang out so we could all play and just hang out and stuff. And one time, at some point in their life, they had like a one-story house, and they decided that they were gonna do a second story and added more to the house. So one day we were playing. I remember, I think we were like playing hide and seek and something like that. So I ran upstairs where, there were like, it wasn't built yet, but it was like rooms. Um, it was empty, and I remember I ran all the way to the top, and it was like at the top had like a balcony. So the room that was before the balcony, I ran to that room, and I ran in there, and I was kind of hiding, and I looked over at the corner of the house, of the room, and I drew a picture because I don't know how to explain it. I mean, I could explain it, but I saw something in the corner of the room. There was a little black shadow. It had a humanoid shape. To me, it looked like a child or a baby. I would say more like, I don't know, like a 11-month-old baby, or a toddler, or a 1-year-old. Um, I remember this thing look. I knew it wasn't human because it was dark, like the look, like you can see my skin. It's like, it's like brown, but this thing was completely dark, like the darkest dark you could imagine, and it was just crouching in the corner of that room. And I just remember like staring and being in shock, and just like looking at it, and like I didn't move, didn't do anything, I was just looking at it. And it wasn't looking at me, it was like crouching, and it was just kind of looking at the middle of that corner. And then I was just looking at it, and I didn't know how to even react. But then I noticed, I don't know how I was able to notice, but it was like turning its head towards me to look at me. And I remember once the head of this thing was turned all the way, that thing had red eyes, and it had really sharp teeth, and it was just like smirking, like it had this really, really menacing, grotesque smile on its face while it was staring at me. And I just remember seeing that, and then I heard my cousins running towards me, and then I looked that way, away from it, and then when I looked back, it was completely gone. And I had no idea what it was, but I just remember seeing that when I was growing up. It's something that probably never gonna forget, but I honestly don't know what it was. And now that I'm grown up, I think that might have been like an evil spirit, maybe a demon, maybe a familiar spirit. Honestly, I don't know, but I know that I saw something. So I drew a picture because I don't know, I feel like it would make more sense, or you guys can kind of visualize what I saw. So this is what it looked like. Well, it wasn't looking at me, and when it turned around, this is what it looked like. Um, I said it looked it looked back at me and stared at me. So that was one occasion. Um, I remember there was one experience I had where I've never seen anything like that before in my life, and I was like the first time ever seeing something like that. And let's see, another core memory is when the church went to do baptisms. I think I might have been older here. I don't know. And I can't put an age to my memories, honestly. I think I'm gonna be going back and forth in time, and I'm just gonna tell you guys some of the things that kind of impacted me in my life. So it might not be in chronological order, but I just want to share it with you, and I hope that you know that I'm not trying to glorify darkness by telling you the ugly things that I seen. I just want you to know and be aware that these things are real, and they're very much real, and some people are actually able to see these things. Some people are able to sense them, smell them, and like it's very real. So I just wanted to share that. So one time, the church went to do baptisms, and I remember um, one time I was running towards the ocean, and I remember I got in, and I was kind of like just floating in there, and it was like close to the shore, and I remember I was getting pulled into the ocean. I was just getting kind of pulled in because of the waves. Sorry, I keep messing with that. And then there was like a tornado inside the water, because I remember getting sucked into it, and like I just remember like looking up, and I remember the light was just getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and um yeah, that was one thing that I remember, because I think I might have died or something, because I don't know, because like the hole, it was like a hole that was getting closer and closer and closer, right? And so the light got smaller and smaller, and it was all darkness. And then I remember seeing somebody giving me CPR, mouth to mouth, and I just remember coughing up water. Um, they told me that somebody saw what happened. They saw me get sucked into the water, and I think it might have been a lady from the church. She grabbed me and pulled me out, and resuscitate me back, because I was unresponsive. So I feel like God saved me there. I feel like God's been part of my life ever since I was a kid, and He like protected me from a lot of things. So that's one thing that I remember. The second most things that I remember was like I once thought that I was a boy. So when I was younger, I was playing with my brother, and I remember he had to run to go pee, and so I followed him, and I was like, okay, well, I want to go pee too. And um, so he went pee, he did his thing, and then I kind of was just standing there like, how do I pee? Like, where's my, you know, I don't have that part of the male, um, you know, yeah, I'm not a boy, so I don't have that. So I was started crying, and I went and asked my grandma why couldn't I pee like my brother. And you would think that is like something a child would do because they don't know any better and stuff, but I genuinely felt like I should have been a boy for some reason. I don't know why, but it was just kind of weird instance. And my grandma told me that I was a girl, and she said that girls don't have that. You're a girl. I mean, yeah, you're a girl. And then I was just like, I remember I just started crying for some reason. I don't know why. I was like upset for some reason. Other things that I remember, I don't know if anybody had this problem, but I remember peeing my pants in school and being so embarrassed about it. Just weird core memories that I have. Another one is when I was a kid, I was going to school, and this girl was bullying me in school, and she was sitting behind me. There were like rows of desks, and she was behind me, and she kept kicking my chair, and I had long hair like this, and she kept pulling my hair, and I kept going like this because she kept pulling my braid back, my hair. And I remember she kept doing it, and like I never wanted to do anything about it because I was like, well, I don't know, like I was just sitting there kind of just taking it. And then one day she did it, and like I don't know what came over me, but like she pulled my hair, and I was so fed up with it, and she started to walk. She pulled my hair, and then she got out of her desk and started walking towards like the the drawing board or whatever, the yeah. And then I just remember her walking, and then as soon as she got right in front of me, I remember I pushed her, and then I crawled on top of her, and I just started punching her and pulling her hair, and I actually got suspended for that, and I think I got kicked out of that school. So that's one thing I remember where we lived, there was like a dirt patch. There was a tree, and I remember going up there and shoving a rock up my nose all the way up here, and I had to go to the hospital to get it out. I don't know why, but when I was growing up, when I was a young kid, I for some reason found it girls interesting in not a very appropriate way. I remember kissing girls in school. Um, and yeah, like not having my parents around, I feel like kind of messed me up because I didn't have any guidance. I had my grandparents, but like most of the time it felt like I was growing up by myself, and like without the influence of parents, you know. So like they didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, like I think around that age is when it kind of got implanted in me that I was interested in women, in girls, in an inappropriate way, which is an abomination to God, obviously. So I'll talk about that part later. Um, so at some point in time in life, my mom and my dad got pregnant with my youngest sister, and they actually called up my grandparents and asked them if any of us wanted to come to the US to help them out with taking care of the house, the cooking, maybe even providing childcare for our sibling. And in the Hispanic world, when you are old enough to talk, speak and walk, um, if you're like, like they will put you to do things like cooking, cleaning. They would even give you your siblings to kind of watch over and kind of care for them. So my sister and I, my oldest sister and I volunteered to come. And I remember during that time was kind of just strange. Before I left Guatemala, the Lord gave me a vision of the future, and He showed me in a dream what I was going to be going through. He showed me a vision. He showed me a dream of me being with a bunch of stranger adults. I remember specifically seeing a woman and a man talking to each other, and I was sitting next to them in a room. I was sitting on the floor, they were sitting on the floor, and everybody else was sitting on the floor, kind of just talking amongst themselves. And, I don't know why. Well, now I know why. The Lord was showing me who was gonna be taking care of me during that time and watching over me. And, that dream, to me, it didn't make no sense back then. I had no idea why I even had that dream, but as an adult now, and since I've come to know the Lord, I've understand now that He gave me a vision of the future. And because when I was I remember getting ready to come to the United States. We were brought by a coyote, so I came to the United States illegally. And I am, for disclosure, I just want to say I'm an American citizen now. I have been since 2016. But so I was brought here illegally, and before I came, I remember my grandma just getting my stuff ready. They got me shoes, a backpack, sweaters, gloves, pants, underwear, socks, stuff like that. And I remember the day that we got picked up, it was just like this eerie, weird feeling. I actually wasn't very aware of what was happening. I just knew that I was gonna go somewhere, and I honestly thought that I was gonna come back. And like, I had no idea that once I left, I was never going to go back. So I honestly thought that I was going to go back to my grandma's, but no, I didn't realize I was not going to go back until me and my sister were separated, and a couple of days had passed and we still hadn't gone back. So when I realized that we weren't gonna go back, I started to bawl my eyes. I started to cry because I realized that I had left my grandma, who I thought she was my mom. But um yeah, every time I talked to my parents over the phone, I didn't know who I was talking to. I thought I was just talking to some people, like uncles, or some like relatives. Like I didn't know that the people that I was talking to over the phone was my dad and my mom. And I believe that my grandpa and my grandma were my actual parents, but I was wrong. So I remember when we left, I still hadn't registered what was going on, and so I remember staying in a like kind of like hotel or motel or whatever, and I just remember there being a lot of people. Um, on the way here was horrible. It was scary, and it was. I honestly thought I was gonna die, but by the grace of God, I'm still here. Um, I came to pass. I saw my dream, that vision, come to life right in front of my face. And I still didn't understand it then, but as I grew up, I understood that the Lord gave me a vision of the future. And I remember in that place, the reason why I saw that lady and that man, they were actually siblings. They came from Guatemala as well. They were siblings. I think they were going to LA. Um, so I think the reason why they put the person that was guiding us over to the United States, put them in charge to watch me, because um, they were both coming to stay in LA, and me and my sister were coming to San Francisco, so we were like in close range of where our destination was. So they got put in charge of watching over me, and the lady was fine with it, and the brother too. So that's the whole reason why the Lord showed them to me in a vision. I think it was like maybe like half a month, half no, maybe like 2 weeks in. I got separated from my sister because she was having anxiety attacks and panic attacks, because at some point in time in our trip, they I don't know how they did this, but they built something under the bed of the truck, and they put people under that. And I remember they put my sister under there, and she began to scream because, I don't know, I guess she's like claustrophobic or something. So she got pulled out, and they were like, okay, we're gonna have to take her in a different way. So they took her out, they put me in there, and I just remember laying in there, and it was dark. It was super hot because it was under the bed of the truck, so like the transmission and all that stuff gets hot down there. And I just remember crying the whole way, and they got stopped by, I think, Mexican police or something like that. I don't know. But they got stopped, and they told us to be quiet. So I was honestly still crying, but just trying to cry a little bit quiet. I think I'm gonna stop right there, but I will continue this, so stay tuned, and I hope that you're able to see the Lord in my story. So thank you for watching, and I'll be posting probably tomorrow the second part of that. So stay tuned. God bless you, and I hope you have a good night.